public corporation enjoy most of the responsibilities and rights that an individual possesses. So, the public corporation, those providing essential services like water corporation, power holding company, and federal housing authority. Those of commercial nature like the state-owned banks, hotels, textile, mills, insurance companies, and transport services. So the private corporation may be divided into a stock corporation and non-stock corporation. So a stock corporation has authorized stock corporations are those whose capital stock are divided into shares and shareholders or stockholders each issued a certificate of stock which would entitle him to a certain portion of the project or dividends. So a corporation has authorized capital stock divided into shares of stock either with or without par value. It's engaged in income generating activities and authorized to declare dividends. Next is a non-stock corporation. A non-stock corporation are those that do not issue shares of stock to members such as religious, civic, or charitable organization. Some examples of non-stock corporation include non-profit hospital, research institution, and schools. Next. So other kinds of corporation may be grouped into these eight: quasi-corporation, quasi-public corporation, government-owned or controlled corporation, de jure and de facto corporation, domestic and foreign corporation, corporation of aggregate and corporation sole, eleemosynary and civil corporation, and ecclesiastical and lay corporation. Next, please. The next is compositions of a corporation. Corporators. These are the stockholders or members and or both of the corporation. So those are who compose a corporation, whether as stockholder or shareholders in a stock corporation or as a member in as non-stock corporation. Next is incorporators. These are the stockholders or members and or both stated in the articles of corporation as founding members of the corporation. They are the signatories to the incorporation who originally formed and composed the corporation. Each incorporator of a stock corporation must own or subscribe to at least one share of the capital stock. The next is the members. These are the corporators of corporation which has no capital stock. And the fourth is stockholders or shareholders. Shareholders or stockholders own shares in a corporation which have capital stock and whose names appear in the books of the corporation as the holders of a share or shares of stock of the corporation. Shareholders or stockholders own shares of publicly or privately held corporations. Their ownership also usually includes voting rights when it comes to certain company decisions. Shareholders are individuals, companies, or trusts that own shares of a for-profit corporation. The individuals own a specific number of shares which they each purchased at a specific price. Next. The next is classes of capital stock. According to Philippine laws governing the establishment of a corporation, the right of ownership and active control and participation is vested in the owners of the common stock. So common stock carries with it the power and right of voting, through which the holders have great residual ownership or power over the corporation. Common stock is security that represent ownership in corporation. Holders of common stock elect the board of directors and vote on corporate policies. This form of equity ownership typically yields higher rates of return long term. Next, please. So the par value of a stock may not represent its exact market value. It may be overstated most of the time. A corporation to appear solvent or successful may issue 20,000 peso worth of stocks for property worth only 13,000 pesos. On the other hand, a corporation which has been in operation for the last 30 years and which has expanded greatly may still carry stocks with a par value of 1,000 peso when these same stocks could easily sell for 10,000 pesos each in the market. In the case of non-par stock, the corporation is not compelled to sell the stock at any particular price. The value of the stock is primarily determined by the earning capacity of the company. For example, the original no-par stock may have sold for 500 peso and yet the present earnings will attract buyers at only 300 pesos per share. Since money is needed, the corporation can sell the stock of 3,000 which it could value if it were par value stock. Next slide. So the preferred stock. The owners of preferred stock are granted special protection or advantages over the common stockholders. It carries preference as to priority in the granting of dividends over the common stock as to capital in case of dissolution. There are several classifications of preferred stock: preferred as to dividends, preferred as to asset, preferred as both dividends and assets, cumulative, preferred, callable, and convertible. In many corporations, preferred stock is non-voting, although in some instances it may be given in the right vote. So a preferred stock in a class of stock that is granted certain rights that different from common stock. Namely, preferred stock often possess higher dividends payments and a higher claim to assets in the event of liquidation. Next reporter.
Advantages of corporation. Limited liability of stockholders means na limitado lamang ang kanilang pananagutan sa corporation kaysa sa actual na na-invest. As a result, they can freely participate more as they risk only the funds of the investment they put in corporation. Next, large amount of capital. Dahil nga marami at malaki ang isang corporation, mas malaki rin ang capital na kinakailangan nito. At dahil marami ang nakapaloob dito ay mas marami ring mapapagkuhaan ng enough amount at mas mapapadali ang pagbuo ng isang corporation. Next, flexible ownership means that everyone in the corporation can be owner, not just one person always, upang mas mapabilis at mapaganda ang operasyon. This advantage of the corporation can reach farther as they manage to sold many stocks every day to the buyers. Next, length of life. The life of corporation is period of 50 years o mas mahaba pa. The death or incapacity of stockholders, officers, and personnel has no bearing o walang epekto sa buhay ng corporation. As long as the corporation ay profitable, ay maaari pa rin itong magpatuloy. Next, efficiency of management means that the every top official and highly qualified personnel may be employed in corporation to manage effectively and efficiently the business operation in order to attain its objectives and goals. Next, ease of expansion means that it can easily expand because it's financially stable or profitable. It can easily issue sell a share of stock dahil kailangan ng corporation ng malaking puhunan at maaari nitong magamit sa pagdevelopment ng corporation. Legal entity. Dahil ang corporation ay isang artificial being, meron itong sariling legal rights at obligation katulad ng bawat tao, having under the law rights and responsibility, and especially the capacity to should and be should. Disadvantages of corporation. Taxation. A corporation is like a human being that has a taxation to pay, mandated by laws and ordinances. In addition, special taxes in certain corporations such as public utilities and insurance company are demanded. Organizational expenses means sa lahat ng type of business corporation ay ang pinakamagastos dahil